So here we go. There it starts. Okay, so we're studying Maseches Tamid together. We're getting close to the end of the Masechta, and we're going to continue where we left off. If you're using the front, the Hebrew and Aramaic, we're at Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. We're up to where the Gemara starts. Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. If you're using the back with the Art Scroll Elucidation, it's 31b2. Just make sure you're in Tamid and not all the way back in Midos. So again, in the front, it would be Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, where the Gemara begins. And in the Art Scroll Elucidation, it's 31b2. So let's jump right in. So the Mishnah had taught that when they would bring the Karban Tamid, they tied it up in a very specific fashion. They did not tie it up in the manner that regular lambs would be tied up when they're being brought to the butcher. So the Gemara says, Tana, we learned in the Brisa, Yod v'Regel, that they would tie it up like the right front leg, the foreleg it's called, with the right hind leg, and then the left foreleg with the left hind leg. That's how they would tie it up, not tying it up all four legs together. So it says, Yad v'Regel, they tied up each foreleg with its matching hind leg, Kakedas Yitzchak ben Avram. The same way Yitzchak was bound when he was brought at the famous Akedas Yitzchak. I did see some of the Mefarshim point out, Yitzchak was brought, Avram tied him up in the back. In other words, that hand and leg were tied up in the back. Obviously, with the lamb, it's going to be tied up, going front. That's the way it was working with the lamb. All right, the Mishnah. I also found it interesting. The Gemara refers to him as Yitzchak ben Avram. We're always used to hearing Akedas Yitzchak. Here it is. It's like just referring. Don't forget, it's Yitzchak ben Avram. I thought that was just interesting. So the Gemara says, "Lo yukosin es hatzlek," quotes the Mishnah that said they did not tie the tamid. They didn't tie it up the same way they would tie up a regular lamb that was being brought to the butcher. So the Gemara says, "My time. What's the reason? Why was there this hakpada? Why were we so specific about how this animal was supposed to be tied up?" Now, I would have imagined that the answer should just be like, okay, because we want it to resemble the way Yitzchak was tied. There's some spiritual significance that way. Apparently, that's not what the Gemara is looking for. The Gemara wants to know what would have been wrong with tying all four legs together, which was the normal way you did it when you went to the butcher. So the Gemara says, Rav Huna v'Rav Chisda was a machlokas between the two of them. Chadamar, one said Mishum Bizoyin Kadashim. One says that would have been uncomplimentary to treat our kachim, to treat our karbanos the same way we would treat animals being brought to the butcher. We want to show a higher degree that there's some chiluk, there's some difference. And then the other one says, Chadamar Mishum D'Mahalach B'Chukei Amim. Apparently that was very common the way the idolaters would do things. When they would bring their animals as offerings, they would tie all four legs together. So there's a dispute. What's the reason we're not doing it? Is it because we don't want to show a bizayon? We want to treat it like at a higher standard? Or is it because we want to do something distinctively different than the way the pagans would have done it? Gemara asks, "My benayu, what's the practical difference between these two?" So Ika benayu, the Gemara says, here's the difference. The kafse b'share, what if you would have tied it up with beautiful, comfortable silk? In such a case, that wouldn't be derogatory to tie all four together, but it still could be kechukas hakayim. It could still be the way the pagans do things. Or inami behutza da'ava. Let's say you tied it together with like gold chains. So again, someone used some gold chains to tie all four legs together. That wouldn't have been a bizayon because you're using such nice materials, but that still would be mimicking the way the nations of the world were doing it. So those would be the practical difference. Yes, sir. Right. This would answer that. Correct. That's also true. Right. I just say, again, but again, to say that the second answer, but the first one about Bizarre, I guess so. Yeah, same idea. All right. That Rabbi Science is right, 100%. Thank you. All right, let's see. So now the Gemara says, Tanan Hassam. What we started to talk a little bit earlier about tables, that when they were cutting up the tamid and skinning it, so we said that there was hanging by its leg, by the left hind leg, on a hook from a pillar, and then there was tables in front where they would butcher it up and skin it on. So once we got on the topic of tables, so the Gemara is going to get on a little bit of a tangent, but it's going to discuss all the tables that were in the Beis Hamikdash. It says, Tanan Asam, we learned in the Mishnah over there, Shlosh Esrei Shulchanos HaBeMikdash. There was a total of 13 tables in the Beis Hamikdash. Shmona Shel Shayish BeBeis Hamikdashayim. 8 of them were made out of marble, stone, and they were in the slaughtering area. Those are the ones we were discussing, that when they were butchering up the korbanos, they would have them over those tables to work on them in that fashion. And that's where also washed out the kishkas, because they wanted to clean them out from the food and the waste that was in them. And it says, okay, so that gets us up to 8. Where are the other 5? So it says Shnayim b'marava shel kevesh. There was another 2 tables, that's going to get us up to 10, that were on the west side of the ramp, meaning the mizbeach, the main mizbeach that was in the Azara. So there was on the west side of it, meaning going towards the Kodesh section, towards the Beis Hamikdash, there were another 2 tables there. And what was unique about those tables? Echad shel shayish, one was made of marble, echad shel kesef, one was made out of silver. Al shel shayish, what did they use the marble one for? Nosnan esaivarim. That's where they would put the limbs. If, let's say, we just said when the Tamid was being slaughtered, so they didn't have to put the limbs down after they butchered it. So there were Kohanim who were there to hold the parts before they got placed on the ramp to go up on the Mizbeach. Now that's true of the Tamid. But what about private korbanos? Private korbanos that were being cut up and butchered, they didn't have Kohanim on staff to be ready to hold them. So they had to be placed somewhere until they were ready to be burnt. They would be placed on the marble table. Al shel kasef, what was placed on the silver table? Clay shares. That's where all the various service vessels, everything that was going to be needed in Avoda, in that section of the Beis Hamikdash, they put that down on the silver table, not on the marble table. Now we'll get to that soon, explaining why they specifically wanted to use marble tables for all the tables whose function was to handle or to hold meat. Ulam, in the antechamber, meaning when you went into that massive room before you got into the Kodesh section of Beis Hamikdash, uvulam shnayim mebifnim al Pesach habayis. There was another 2 tables that were next to, as you got to the door going into the Kodesh section. Echad shel kesef, echad shel zav. One was of silver, one was of gold. What were they used for? Al shel kesef nosen lachem hapanim b'chnisaso. So remember the lachem hapanim, the showbread that went on the shulchan in the Kodesh section, was baked every Friday. So they baked them on Friday, but they didn't replace them until Shabbos. So after they were baked on Friday, so you have the new ones, before they take them out on Shabbos afternoon, where are they going to stay from Friday afternoon till Shabbos afternoon? So on the silver table, that's what it says. Al shel kesef nosen lechem hapanim b'chnisaso. You'd put the incoming lechem hapanims on the silver table. Al shel zav mitziyaso. And when you took out the 12 from last week and you put the new ones in there, take out the 12, before you would divvy them up to the Kohanim, they would first put them down on the gold table, because they also had to burn. There was 2 bazichim, there were 2 like spoon bowls that had frankincense, a spice in them with the 12 lechem hapanim. So while those 2 bowls, bazichim of frankincense, a lavona, was being burnt on the Mizbeach, so they would have the 12 last week's lechem hapanim sitting on the gold table before they divvied them up to the Kohanim. And that's what he says. The outgoing breads would be on the gold table. Why? Shemalim b'kodesh v'lo maridin. Because you always go to ascending levels. So in other words, you can't start by putting something on gold and then bringing it down to silver. So you can have it that you start, the incoming stuff will be on silver. When it goes into the Kodesh section, it's on gold. But once it's on gold, it can't come out and then be on silver. It's got to be on gold. So someone might ask the question, so then why don't we just have just 3 gold tables? Why do we need silver at all? That may be to teach us the lesson of Ma'alim B'Kodesh, that we always want to go in ascending order. If they were all gold, that lesson would have been lost on us. So let's see, the Mishnah continues, Vechad shel zav b'fnim, and the 13th table, the last one, that was the golden table that Moshe Rabbeinu built with Betzalel in the Midbar. That was in the Kodesh section inside, and that's what the Lechem HaPanim sat on. Mishnah considers Sha'alav Lechem HaPanim Tamid. Fine. So now the Gemara continues, and it says, 1 second, you told me all the tables that were going to be used to, when they were butchering up the korbanos and skinning them and washing them, they were going to be on marble tables. Why? We're in a place of opulence. We're in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara says, Michti, let's examine that. In Anius b'makom ashirus, we had this concept come up earlier in the Masechta, is that there's no display of anius, there's no display of poverty, of wanting for more in a place of ashirus, in a place of grandeur like the Beis Hamikdash. We could have afforded it. Why didn't we have silver tables or gold tables to be butchering the korbanos on? Why did they specifically want to use stone tables? Amai of the shayish? Why were they made of marble? So it says, Nivdu the Kesef, Nivdu the Zav. Why didn't we make them out of silver, gold? We definitely could have come up with the resources. So why not? So the Gemara answers, so the Gemara gives a very practical answer. Because we didn't want the meat, when it would be put on the tables, to get warm and then to potentially spoil. Why? Because think about it. The Beis Hamikdash, there was no roof. So therefore, in the courtyard, there was no roof. So therefore, it was the sun's beating on it. Therefore, you're right, in the morning, it may not have been too hot, those tables, but by the afternoon, they could have been plenty hot. And then think about it. If you put your feet out on on your black, asphalt or something in the afternoon, it's going to hurt those feet. So same kind of thing. Why? Because it's absorbing the heat. So metal will absorb the heat. So therefore, if I would put meat on it in the afternoon after it's been out in the blazing sun for a while, it's going to start making it very warm and might get it to rot. And we don't want that to happen. Therefore, let's use marble. Marble was light colored, and therefore it would be cool. You don't have any fears of putting meat on it that's going to make it go bad. What about the fact we know there's a Mishnah that tells us of all these nisim miracles that happened in the Beis Hamikdash, and one of them was that no meat ever rotted? So the answer they give to that is, we we don't expect miracles to happen. If they happen, that's great, but we don't conduct ourselves l'chadchila, waiting for miracles to happen. Therefore, the tables that they used for butchering and putting the meat on was always going to be marble. Let's just see a little further. The Gemara says, Shal Shachar, the Mishnah, it says, Shal Shachar Yinishchar al Keren Tzfonis Maravis, that the Tamid in the morning, that was going to be shechted in the northwest corner, meaning on the shechting floor, but northwest of, above the, on the west corner of the Mizbeach, on the ground, at the second ring. So, and then it says as follows, Mina Animili, and then also we know in inference by, that would mean the afternoon one will be northeast. So where do we get this from? That the morning is going to be at the northwest, and that the evening, in the afternoon rather, is going to be northeast. Mina Animili, where do we get this from? Amar of Chista. Damar Kra, the pasuk says Shnayim Layom. The pasuk said when it was talking about the Korban Tamid, is Shnayim Layom, that two got to be brought Layom in the day. So that means Keneged Ayom. That means opposite the day, meaning we want the sun hitting it. We don't want it to be in the shade, in the shadows. That when the Tamid is being shechted, we don't want it to be in the shadows. So meaning what? I have to shecht it north of the Mizbeach, because that's the place of the slaughtering. But where am I going to shecht it north of the Mizbeach? I got to pick the spot where it's going to be in the sun, where it's not going to be in the shade or the shadows. So the sun's rising in the morning in the east. If I would shecht it on the northeast side, it's possible the sun's going to hit the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, and then when I'm shechting it, it's going to be in the shade. How do I ensure it won't be in the shade? Move it further over to the west. Therefore, it's not in the shadow of the walls, and the sun will be hitting it. And vice versa in the afternoon. I want it also to be layom, the sun hitting it. So I don't want it on the northwest, because by then the sun is moving, and it might hit the shadow of the Beis Hamikdash coming down this way. So if I move further over to the east, I'll guarantee it'll be under the sunlight. So Gemara says, Tani Nami Hachi, we learned this in the Brisa as well. Shnayim layom, the Brisa said, it says two, in layom. Keneged ayom, that tells me that when I shecht it and do everything for the Korban Tamid, it should be the yom, it should be the day, should be hitting it, meaning the sun should be hitting it, direct sunlight. So it says, Atomer neged ayom, is that right? Is that how to darshan it? That the sun should be hitting it? Maybe it means to tell me it's just got to be brought during the daytime, or every day I got to bring two. And this drush about that it's got to be under the sunlight, it's just not there. So Gemara says, no. Kishu Amar, the pasuk says, it's a kevasechad tasa baboker. It says that the first one should be brought in the morning. The second one in the afternoon. So of course, I already know from other psukim that every day I got to bring two. So you can't tell me when it says Shnayim Layom, it's coming to teach me that. So Mani Mekayim Shnayim Layom. So what's the pasuk teaching us when it says Shnayim Layom? Neged Ayom, to tell us that it's got to be in direct being hit by the day, meaning in sunlight. Okay, so how do I make that happen? The morning one should be shechted northwest of the base of the Mizbeach. And that would guarantee that the sun's hitting it. It's not in the shade. And the one in the afternoon, and the afternoon one will be at northeast. Therefore, that'll guarantee that it's not going to be in the shade. It'll be under direct sunlight. All right, so we'll hold it here for tonight. We'll say a Kaddish Rabban, and God willing, we'll continue tomorrow evening. Rabbi Chanani ben Akasha Meratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Es Yisrael Lefika Chima Lehem Torah Mitzvah Shenemar Adonai Chafetz Leman Tzidko Yagil Torah V'Yadir. Amen.